Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. So, we're making a structured sleeve. It is really trendy these days, and the outcome is really lovely. So, let's make a structured sleeve. So, we'll start by cutting your fabric. So, whatever fabric you want to use, you're going to make sure that the length is the distance you want for the length of your structured sleeve. So, for maybe for the bust point, the middle line on the bust point to the back. So for me, I got 23. I added extra 10 inches allowance to it. This extra 10 inches is because of your bicep or your arm, so that there'll be enough room for movement. You get, so that's why I added an extra 10 inches to the length. So in case you want yours to start from your half length to from the front half length to the back half length, just whatever measurement that works for you. Okay, add 10 inches to it because of the bicep or the arm. Now the width of my sleeve, I want it to be 7 inches. So what I have here is a fabric that is folded into two. The width of the fabric is 14, so I folded into two because I need to cut fabric and lining as well. Right, so it's always advisable to use the same fabric as lining when you're making a structured sleeve. So what I have here folded is 14 inches. So by the time I cut out what I've marked out 7 inches across the length of the fabric. So by the time I cut it out, I'm going to have a 14 inches wide fabric. So I'm also going to open it up so that I have 7 inches separate. You get what I mean? So yeah, I've cut out what I have there. So I'm also going to open up this part so I can separate it. One is going to be the main fabric and one is going to be the lining. Right, so when you hear structured sleeve, there are also things that you will have in mind to help you achieve the structured look. So one of them is interfacing, and you cannot use the regular interfacing called gum stay for this project because it's going to mess it up. So you need a stronger interfacing like the color stay or the peplum stay. So I'm going to work with the peplum stay. So what I'll do is to go and fixing or adhere my peplum stay to the fabric. Okay, so what you can do is you can attach your peplum stay to the main fabric and attach your hair stay to the lining fabric. Okay, but I want to do peplum stay on both sides, right? So just go ahead and cut exactly the same width on your peplum stay and hair stay, and you go and adhere it to it. So if you don't have color stay, you can also make use of your um if you don't have peplum stay, you can also make use of your collar stay, or if you just have gum stay, that means you're going to make sure you double or triple it just to give it structure. So what I've done, I'm joining the two together, right sides facing right sides. So I've joined it together and I'm just going to cut out my excess threads. So please ignore the little hand you're seeing. That's my baby girl, and she likes, school has closed now, so she likes to follow me to work and she likes to see everything I'm doing. Like, she wants to be the one to pick out threads, give me needles, give me pins, give me chalk. You get it. So when I'm done sewing, I'm going to top stitch on the lining. This is there's peplum stay on it, so it's going to be really difficult to fold into two if you don't top stitch. Another thing you can do is ironing, but top stitching helps, like it adds the last nail to it, you get. So you're going to make sure you top stitch, and the part you're top stitching on becomes the lining fabric. So for me, when I'm making stuff like this, I like to top stitch from the front so that I can see exactly what I'm doing. I don't like to, do this and rip it apart at the end of the day. So I like to see what I'm doing. And I advise that when you're doing this, you also try to top stitch from the front. Just use your hand to push out the excess fabric or the seam allowance towards the lining fabric, and you top stitch on it. Okay, so I hope you understand what top stitching means. If you're a beginner, please, top stitching means stitching on your allowance, stitching your allowance to the lining just to create an even and fine look on whatever you're making. That's what top stitching means. When you do it on your neckline, it helps to relax your neckline, your armhole, whatever you're doing top stitching on. So I've gone ahead to top stitch the entire length of the fabric, right? So this is what it looks like, very smooth. Excuse me, guys. So now that we've done that, I'm going to introduce the other structure that we're adding to it, which is our regiline boning. There are two types of boning, Regilene boning and the plastic boning, I guess that's what it's called. So what I'm going to do is to make marks for my Regilene boning. So from the edge of the fabric, I'm going to be marking out 3/4. Okay, baby's crying and I've sorted that out. All right, so I'm marking out my boning channels, not like channels, but where I'll place my boning on. So from the edge of the fabric, I'm marking 3/4 of an inch, and this is because I'm also going to close the end of the fabric. So I don't want my boning getting close to the edge of the fabric at all. So after marking that 3/4, I'm now going to mark 1 inch apart. Right, so that's where I'm going to be placing my bonings on. So across the entire length of the fabric, I'm just marking 1 inch apart from each other. Right, so I'm just marking 1 inch, 1 inch apart from each other, just in that same order. But from the edge of the fabric, what I just marked was 3/4 of an inch, and that's my seam allowance. Remember that when I joined the two fabrics together, I used half inch seam allowance, you get. So, but now I don't want the boning to be so close to the seam allowance. That's why I made 3/4, just to give it like quarter of an inch spacing, right? So what I've done is just to go and make sure that I straighten out the lines. And because baby is very close to the sewing machine, I could not leave her unsupervised to go and get a ruler before she puts her hand underneath the needle. I cannot do that. So that's why I just use my hand to make a rough sketch. So if you have OCD and this looks jagged to you, I really apologize. Now for your boning, you need to start 1 inch above, 1 inch below the edge of the fabric, just so that when you are tucking in the edge of the fabric, your seam allowance is not getting into the boning. Okay, so make sure you leave 1 inch at the top of the fabric. Then you're going to stitch your Regilene boning down to the lining piece. Okay, just know that the part that you're sewing the Regilene boning is on the lining piece. That way the main fabric is going to cover it and the stitchings are going to be underneath. Okay, so on the outside or on the main fabric there will be no stitchings, whatever. Everything is going to be smooth and beautiful. So this is what I'm doing, stitching on my Regilene boning to my lines. Now because I have so much structure on this, I have my peplum stay on both lining and main fabric. I'm not going to use Regilene boning on the entire lines I have made, so I'm just going to be spacing them two lines each, right? So instead of 1 inch line, I'm going to make it 2 inches spacing. Do you get? So if you use a lightweight interfacing for yours, it means that you're going to work on the entire 1 inch length to add more structure to your structured sleeve, right? So because I have used collar stay or peplum stay on mine, I'm going to make it 2 inches apart. So you can see what I have just done there, 2 inches apart. Please, I'll say it again. If you're working with a lighter interfacing, just make sure that you are using enough boning. That means your bonings is 1 inch or your bonings are 1 inch apart. That way you're going to achieve much more structure. You get it? If you don't get it, I know you'll get it. So guys, now I'm attaching the second boning to my fabric. Okay, so I'm just taking this step by step. Okay, now the boning has, you're going to sew on two sides of the boning, so that's why I'm taking this gradually so that you can see exactly what I'm sewing. By the time I'm done sewing one side of the boning, I'll still go and sew the other side of the boning, just for more structure at the end of the day, yes, but to reinforce the boning onto the fabric. When you see a Regilene boning, you can see that the two sides have a little bit of seam allowance on the two sides, so you need to stitch on both sides. So what I'm doing is stitching on one side, then by the time I'm done, I'm going to flip the whole fabric to the other side and stitch on it as well. Now I also want to warn you that when you're stitching on your Regilene boning, your thread is going to be cutting at intervals. So do not get frustrated and be like, why, what's happening? I'm tired. Just make sure that once your thread cuts, you put it back and keep sewing. You're sewing on something that is plastic, different from fabric. So your needle is used to working on fabrics and wool, all of those things. So working on something plastic is foreign to it, so it's going to keep cutting. But the good thing is that this Regilene boning you can stitch on it. So if your thread cuts, just go ahead and put it back and continue stitching. So this is Learn to Sew with Noni, and here on this channel I upload sewing tutorials, pattern drafting, sewing videos, all around tailoring, all around tailoring. So if you are interested in that kind of content, please consider subscribing. It will mean a whole lot to me. And while you're at it, also consider turning on your post notification so that each time I upload a new video, you'll be notified that a new video is here up on the channel. Also help me and like this video so that YouTube can recommend it to other people. And yes, you can also help me share it so I can get other people to view this video. And right now I'm trying to rush it because I can hear baby crying and trying to make me stop this voiceover, but she has already disturbed the sewing process, so she's just going to hold on while I complete this. So you can see I'm also stitching on the other side just to make sure that I adhere the boning to the sides of it. Okay, so this is it. I hope you are enjoying what we're doing. You can see that my thread is cutting, so while it cuts, fix it back and keep sewing, right? So like I have said, you can add as much boning as you want. It's just going to help you structure this really well. So right, I'm done attaching my bunions. Make sure you cut out your excess threads. So now this is, I folded it back into two, you can see. So normally you're supposed to fold, as it's folded into two, you're going to close up. So normally you're supposed to fold back, and stitch on half inch allowance, and afterwards you're going to tuck out the everything you've sewn. But because there is boning inside of this thing, it's going to be difficult to turn it outside. So what I'm doing is to fold the two edges. I'm just folding half inch inwards like so. You're going to have to maybe use a pressing iron to make it stay firm. But I like to work with a pin here, so because of my regiline boning, so I don't want to add heat to the regiline boning. It's plastic, so it doesn't melt or maybe lose the structure that it has. So I'm just folding in half inch inwards on the two sides. Then I'm going to use a pin to hold it down. You get? So if you're working with something that does not have boning, what you just do is to put it together, right side facing right side, stitch it together, then pull out everything from the opening that we have. But it's going to be a little bit difficult to do that because of all of that boning. So you don't want to rip apart your seam that you've worked so hard on. So what I do is just fold half inch inwards and go ahead and pin it down like you can see me do. Yeah, so after that I'll just go ahead and stitch it down. That way I'm going to avoid melting my regiline boning and losing all the structure I've worked so hard to achieve. Right, over Sabi madam, look at her, senior apprentice as well. So you can see what I have at the end of the day, my structured sleeve, and you can see that much structure that it has. You can wipe this on somebody's neck. Please do not, I beg you. All right, so it has so much structure, beautiful, so you can attach it to your corset, your plunge neckline, bustier, anything that comes to your mind that you want to attach this to. Really comes out beautiful. So I hope you love what we've done here today. You can plait the edges just to give it that beautiful look that it has. You can see you can plait it. So my name is Nani, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please remember to subscribe, like, share, all of those beautiful things that you do to people that you love. So keep watching, keep practicing, and I'll see you in my next one. I love you so much. Bye.